Good morning, Los Angeles, and welcome to another meeting of the Los Angeles City Council. Today is Tuesday, October 10th, 2006. I'm Councilmember Eric Garcetti, and I'm joined by Councilmember Wendy Gruhl and Councilmember Jan Perry. Here it is about 5 minutes after the hour, and we are awaiting 10 members, which constitutes 2/3 of this body and an official quorum. So I'd like to ask Councilmembers Cardenas, Councilmember Hahn, Councilmember Huizar, Councilmember Padilla, Councilmember Labange, Councilmember Parks, Councilmember Reyes, Councilmember Rosendahl, Councilmember Wesson to please join us as soon as possible. We are broadcast live on Channel 35, which is LA City View, your city channel, through the city's cable system. We're also rebroadcast in the evening. These meetings, of course, are open to members of the public, too, here in John Ferraro Council Chambers, room 340 of City Hall, and we invite members of the public to come down here and give public testimony on any general items or items that have been agendized for public comment. We also are available online at our city's homepage at www.lacity.org, where you can see live streaming video webcasts of our council meetings, and you can also find a wealth of information about city departments, your elected officials, and the workings of the cities. Our agendas are available in the back of this room or online at lacity.org, and you can read ahead. Those are posted at least 3 working days in advance to see what is on the agendas. We have council ambassadors on most days, too, in the rear of council chambers to explain some of the ins and outs of our council meetings. If you are not near a television or a computer, you can always call in through your telephone to listen to these meetings. You can get live audio coverage of our committee meetings as well as our full council meeting through CityPhone. The number for CityPhone is 213-621-CITY. Lastly, for folks who live closer to Van Nuys, we meet there once a month at Van Nuys City Hall, the first Friday of the month, as we just did at our last meeting. But we are always available there for your public comments, where we can hear here downtown your public comments through a remote setup, and vice versa, though, that one day a month when we're out in Van Nuys, you can always come down to downtown City Hall and testify here, and the council is able to hear you in chambers in Van Nuys. I want to thank the council members who are here, council members Gruhl, Labange, Perry, Reyes, Wesson. That gives us 6 members. I know that 3 members are excused today, and we have 3 members that are stuck in committee upstairs. We hope that they come down as soon as possible. Again, we'd like council members Cardenas, Councilmember Hahn, Councilmember Huizar, Councilmember Padilla, Councilmember Parks, Councilmember Rosendahl to join us as soon as we have 4 more members. We will begin the meeting. Thank you. Thank you, council members Cardenas, Gruhl, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, and Wesson. We're waiting one more member and we'll begin the meeting. I'd like council members Hahn, Huizar, Padilla to join us as soon as possible. Thank you. is 10:11. If we don't have another council member in the next 2 minutes, we will adjourn this meeting. Councilmember Hahn, Councilmember Huizar, and Councilmember Padilla, please make your way down. As soon as we have one of them down here, we will begin the meeting. If not, we will adjourn and take up today's meeting tomorrow. Mr. Labange.
Yeah, Mr. President, has the Sergeant of Arms gone up to the committee room?
Yes, we have the sergeants at arms up there. We've asked a couple of the folks to come down and to keep the chair there with Ms. Hahn, so we're trying to get Mr. Padilla
What
or
if you
Mr.
had
Huizar down.
you know how when people speak over 2 minutes on the public comment, what if you had a switch there for the committee rooms? You know?
To give them a little
idea.
buzz?
Yeah, give them a buzz.
All right, we'll work on that. Thank you.
A moment.
Do you have
I
an
have a
introduction?
delegation here I can introduce.
Absolutely, please,
Okay.
Mr. Labange.
Members, I have a very special delegation from our sister city of Guangzhou, China. Please give them a big hand. You know, Guangzhou is very, I want to say, encouraged, I think, for the works of Avak and others who've done the work in the past in Los Angeles here in our Sister City program to come, and they're involved with our sister cities and also our universities. They're presently at UCLA, and they are studying there. We also have programs at Cal State LA and at Cal State Northridge and Long Beach. And I'd like to ask the spokesperson for the program to come forward real quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the delegation, I would like to thank you for letting us be here, and we are very glad to living in Los Angeles for already 2 months, and we will stay here and study in the Anderson School of UCLA until the middle of December. So we'll be very happy to living here with you, and on behalf of the people of Guangzhou City, we would like to welcome all of you to visit Guangzhou in the future. Thank you.
All right, Shay Shay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and I think we have a delegation going to Guangzhou in just about 1 day with the
We just
mayor
take a picture
and
right here
two
real
members.
quick. Yeah, no, the mayor's.
Go ahead, Mr. Labange. Again, we're just awaiting Ms. Hahn, Mr. Huizar, Mr. Padilla. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Cardenas, Gruel, Hahn, Huizar, Labange, Padilla, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti, 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. First order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Parks moves and Mr. Padilla seconds. If there's no objection, those will be approved.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Rosendahl moves and Mr. Wesson seconds. If there's no objection, those will be approved too.
And, Mr. President, this is Tuesday, so there is a flag salute that's been agendized.
All right, Mr. Parks, would you be kind enough to lead us in a salute to the flag? If I can ask everybody in council chambers to please rise for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Would everyone stand, please? Face the flag. Place your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Next order of business, Madam Clerk.
Mr. President, this is the time for comments from the public on items not on council's agenda.
Okay, now it's time for general public comment. We'll start out in the San Fernando Valley. If we can go out to Bruce Darien in a remote facility in Van Nuys. Again, for folks, they can always come to Van Nuys and testify if that's closer to where you live. Welcome, Mr. Darien.
Good morning, City Council. As you know, I've been here for several times. We don't get much participation from the public, and that raises a question as to why people are not participating here at Van Nuys facility, and really there isn't a lot of participation downtown either. I have a motion picture camera here that was damaged. It was intentionally thrown to the ground by Ron Federico, who is a principal for Accent Builders, who was involved in a repudiated contractor for the Malibu Pier project, one of 4 general contractors. Second contractor being Amoroso Construction, which was involved in the rebuilding of the Griffith Park Observatory, or actually he was the 3rd contractor, and the 2nd contractor being John Meek Company, and the 4th contractor going back to John Meek to drive pilings that were rotted out when he was originally there. This Hollywood-backed cover-up of a large public contracting scandal has been covered up for years now, and it affects city business and city officials. The point I'm making here is that had this been damaged on a set, on a Hollywood movie set, say with Mr. Spielberg's company, there would have been ramifications that would have certainly sent that person to jail, and they would have been prosecuted. The Sheriff's Department were taking bribes. The DA did not prosecute this individual for damaging this motion picture camera. And there's a widespread corruption here, and including the federal government and the FBI covering this up. And the city not taking any action whatsoever, no investigation, is a reason directly why there's 0 people sitting here right now. That's not to say that being here is not important, because it is, and that's why I'm here. But the city is taking no action whatsoever in the corruption, and the contractors just come back job after job and fleece the people of their resources. The pier went 5 times over budget. I understand I'm up to time. My time is up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Darien. And thank you for using our Van Nuys facility. Our next speaker here in council chambers is Zuma Dog.
Yes, thank you so much, City Council. My name's Zuma Dog. I'll be running for Los Angeles City Council. I had to declare residency over the weekend, which I did, but I won't say where it is yet. I'd like to say right now, first of all, we got LAUSD. It's going to be tied up in a lot of legal back and forth. You got the mayor on one side, you got LAUSD on the other. Although it's a very tangled, complex legal document that has bad intent and is just going to be years of problems, the 2 sides could come together if they wanted to, if they felt like it. In the Japanese culture, you know that things are very small, thin contracts, a spirit of intent. I don't think we're going to be seeing that. So I'd like to speak to the parents right now watching. I've lived in some pretty rough neighborhoods, and I've been with a lot of kids, good and bad, and I'm talking about ages maybe 8 to 15, and I could see some kids are allowed to curse. Some kids are allowed to be in fights, some better run away from fights. And then you meet the parents. It all comes down to the parents. We're not going to be able to leave it just up to the schools. We're in for a real rough ride with this. So I'd like to talk to the parents. Please raise your standards. Hold your kids accountable. Parents who are the leaders, maybe it's tough if one parent's trying to enforce rules of their kids when all the other parents aren't. You know, maybe we need some YouTube, MySpace free zones. Get involved. Literacy, language. Parents, step up, man. We're in big trouble, and it's a tough thing. Nobody likes to say no to their kids. They just make it harder. I see the difference between the parents who take a stand and won't let their kids do certain things and those who let the kids get away with it, and it's in the same neighborhood. So you can judge the kids by looking at the parents, and we better do more about that. Now let's spend a little bit of time. I saw on TV 9 yesterday about Prop R, term limits extension. There's a lot of propaganda out there. People don't realize that this is bad, unethical. You cannot vote yes for an unethical ethics bill, and that's R. Zuma Dog will be voting no on R. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sky Anderson.
Hi, I'm Sky Anderson, a resident of Los Angeles. It's two subjects. One is the County Board of Supervisors and their dysfunctioning, and two is the MTA bus system and how the TVs make noise and endanger the safety hazard to the public. The Board of Supervisors is responsible for the running of King Drew, and people die unnecessarily there. The Board of Supervisors is in charge of the county jail, and people get arrested in Skid Row, in 2 weeks they're back on the street. The child support services of the county of San Diego, children get killed there. And the MTA is primarily run by the County Board of Supervisors, and it's a completely dysfunctional bus system. So if anybody wants to run for public office when your term's up, I suggest you take on the Board of Supervisors, despite the fact they're considered to be so rich they can buy an election. I think they're very vulnerable if you tell the truth about them. The MTA put TVs on the bus system, and they make sound, and I've talked to about 20 drivers, and they all say the same thing one way or another, that the sound from the TVs is a public safety hazard. They can't drive safely with that sound drolling on them all day long. I talked to the public relations director about this, and I said I talked to KTLA, the TV, and they might go out and interview the bus drivers, and he had no concern about people dying in crosswalk because the bus driver hits them because he can't drive safely. All he said was the bus drivers can't talk to the media while they're driving, while they're in work. No concern about public safety. They put a gag order on the bus drivers. Something seriously wrong with the way MTA is run, and I suggest that Mr. Parks and other people on the mayor do something about it, because the public safety is generally endangered from the noise from these TVs. And I'm a senior citizen. I don't appreciate listening to ads about bald-headed people and taxes that have nothing to do with me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Arnold Sachs is our next speaker.
Yes, good morning, council members. Thank you very much. There's two things I'd like to talk about. One is something that occurred last week on Wednesday's meeting in city council chambers. I was watching the vote tallies go up, and I noticed that there were like 13 votes, ayes, all 13, but there weren't 13 council members in chambers. So I asked somebody here, and they told me that, well, if there's not a vote taken, it's considered a yes vote. Please explain that to the public so that they understand. I mean, since when is no vote a yes vote? That's part one. Part two is in today's agenda, there's item number 23 and item number 25 are basically hand in hand. Both have been acted on. Item number 23 is for a contract for construction for $503.5 million to Clark McCarthy to construct the project entitled Tom Bradley International Terminal Interior Improvements and Baggage Screening at LAX. Contract item number 25 is a contract for construction management services for the Tom Bradley International Terminal Interior Improvements for the same, basically for the same work. Item number 25 states that $32 million is going to be added to the contract for a total funding of $46.1 million. So the original contract was for $14 million. If there was no contract prior to today's being ratified, who did Parsons Transportation Group manage? And how was that contract bidded out? If you have a contract for building something, you have another contract for management services, that's replicating the system. Please explain that to the public also. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sachs. Michael Carrion is our next speaker.
Yes, my name is Michael Carrion, and I have a few questions also. Mr. President, the other day on Channel 35, you state that 9 out of 10 of these meetings start on time. I've been coming here for 2 years and haven't seen not one meeting start at 10 o'clock. Ms. Gruhl, there's still city employees parking across the street. Apparently you haven't done anything about it, or else they're not going to do anything about it. It states E-plates are not exempt from parking here. The city paid money to make those signs up, yet your city employees don't care. They park there. The police, the general service police, don't cite them. Why do we keep giving them courtesy notices? Nowhere in the state law, in the city law, does it state they get a courtesy notice. If you're illegally parked, you get a ticket. Biased, double standards, call it what you want. I call it hypocrisy in the city. You know, Mr. Reyes, you were upset the other day when I talked about Belmont High School. Yes, they did start to clean it, okay? So you were partially right, I was partially wrong. The job's still not done. All they did is run a lawnmower around the edge of the property. Okay, thank you. And basically, I'm here to discuss on Superintendent Villaraigosa's thing to take over the Board of Education. This city council has brought in several of people and giving them all these awards that they can for achieving so much in the Unified School District, yet you guys keep saying the school district is failing. The school district is not the best, I do agree with that, but they have come a long way, and now the mayor wants to intervene and take credit for everything. The mayor should pay attention to his obligations to the city. He spends more time worrying about his wife's job, which is the Board of Education, than he does about this city. And we take offense to that. Thank you.
The next speaker is Daniel Wiseman. Going once, going twice. All right, we'll close the general public comment then. If we can move through the agenda, please.
Mr. President, before beginning the regular agenda, there's a request to continue item number 49 to October 20th.
Okay, colleagues, item 49 has been requested to continue to the 20th of this month. Is there any objection? If not, that'll be ordered. Next items.
On the regular agenda, items noticed for public hearings, items 1 through 4 are street lighting district ordinances.
Okay, colleagues, 1 through 4. Anybody wishing to call those special? Let's open and close the public hearings on those, and let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Next items, Mr. President, are also street lighting district items. On items 5, 9, and 11, the recommendation for council action would be to open the hearing and continue the hearings and ordinances to October 31st.
Okay, colleagues, if there's no objection, we will open those public hearings and continue those until the 31st of this month. That's 5, 9, and 11. Next items, please.
Item number 6, there's a request from Bureau of Street Lighting to continue that matter to November 3rd.
Okay, we will continue that till the 3rd if there's no objection, colleagues. Next items, please.
And 7, 8, and 10, there's a request from Bureau of Street Lighting to continue those matters to October 17th.
Okay, those are continued as well. Next items, please.
Items for which public hearings have been held, items 12 through 26. A report has been submitted on item number 12, which is confirmation of 6-month extension for temporary appointment.
Okay. Any specials, colleagues? Mr. Padilla?
Item 12, please.
Mr. Padilla on 12. Mr. Rosendahl?
23, 24, and 25.
Okay. Mr. Rosendahl, items 23 through 25. Other specials, Ms. Hahn?
20.
20 for Ms. Hahn. Any others, colleagues? Seeing no other specials on the balance of the items, Madam Clerk, if you'll please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Those items are approved. Next items, please.
Next items are items for which public hearings have not been held, items 27 through 59. 10 votes are required for consideration. I believe there are cards on 48, 50, and 53, and 49 has already been acted on.
Okay, we will call those 3 special for cards, and on the other items, we will open and close the public hearings.
And, Mr. President, I understand on item number 55 that there will be a substitute motion, however, it has not been distributed yet.
Okay, let's hold 55 on the desk, please, then. All righty. Colleagues, any specials for these items? We're in the 27 through 59 range. Any specials? Seeing none, let's run them. Roll, open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Next items on the supplemental agenda are items for which public hearings have not been held, and those are items 60 through 64.
Okay. 60 through 64. All right, any specials on those? Any other specials, colleagues, on these? If not, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items.
That would take council back to the items called special. The first item called special is item number 12, and that was by Councilmember Padilla.
Okay, Mr. Padilla, we have item number 12. I'd like to recognize Mr. Padilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, item number 12 is the extension of an interim appointment for the general manager of the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. Lisa, I know you're here somewhere. Let me ask Lisa to come forward. This item was held in committee just this morning, and there is a unanimous vote coming out of committee approving the extension of the interim appointment. We had a status report as well in committee this morning on the status of the search for a permanent general manager, but because this item is before us for approval, an extension of the interim appointment, we had an opportunity to have a conversation with the current general manager about the status of the department, her last 6 months, some of the changes she's already initiated, but some of the ongoing challenges in the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. So I'd like to begin by just offering Lisa a couple of minutes to briefly repeat what we discussed in committee this morning.
Thank you, Councilmember Padilla. City Council members, I am here this morning in front of you for a reappointment for an extension of 6 months at this point in time. Just so that you know, there's been some misperception about whether or not the department supports neighborhood councils and whether or not I support neighborhood councils. We believe in our neighborhood council member volunteers, but we also understand that there's 1,600 of them, and also that the department has a responsibility to stakeholders. Our main goal for the next several weeks and the next several months is to ensure that we provide the infrastructure, that we provide the assistance and the quality of service to our neighborhood councils so that they can engage their stakeholders, so that we can have a representative neighborhood council system.
Okay, and colleagues, I don't need to remind you, there's a lot going on in the department now. We have an interim general manager as we're searching for a permanent. We do always have the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners that oversee the department day to day, week to week, month to month. And we also recently created the Neighborhood Council Review Commission, as mandated by the Charter, to look at the neighborhood council movement as a whole. What's transpired over the last 5 years, how do we make the system stronger, how do we make the system better for neighborhoods throughout Los Angeles as we go forward. So there's a lot happening in the department right now. I think it's been a tall task for Lisa to come in on an interim basis. In my opinion, she's done a fine job. And again, the committee recommends unanimously her extension on this interim basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Hahn, and then Mr. Rosendahl, Mr. Reyes, and Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you. Well, those of you who are in committee heard some of the concerns I had, and while I'm supporting an extension, an interim extension, we're hopeful that the mayor will streamline the process to look for a new general manager. We've been told that we would have a new general manager hopefully by the end of January. And since there's really no one else at this point to step into that place, as Alex said, I did support it, but I will tell you, I have been in this committee, I have been involved in neighborhood councils since their beginning, and I've heard a lot of concern about the department. I've heard a lot of concern about Ms. Sarno's leadership style, and I would say again, you know, this department is there to empower neighborhood councils. It is probably one of the best jobs as a general manager, I think, in the whole city of Los Angeles, because what you have is hundreds of volunteers within the city of LA who at the end of the day, after their own lives, they decide to spend some time making their neighborhood and their community and the city of Los Angeles a little bit better. I can't think of a more enjoyable job than to work with people who want to make Los Angeles a better place to live. So, you know, hats off and a shout out to the hundreds of people out there who volunteer regularly. Volunteer is the key word to help neighborhoods become better. So I would just challenge you, Ms. Sarno, to make sure that you remember that you are there to empower neighborhood councils. There's probably nothing more frustrating to me, as I know it is to neighborhood councils, that this department in any way becomes bureaucratic, or any way that there are too many rules and regulations, because people are quitting in neighborhood councils. They've decided they're burned out. They've decided there are too many rules and regulations, and that's not at all what we intended them to be. So I would challenge you in the interim that you really try to assist neighborhood councils, work with neighborhood councils, try to bring all the city departments in MOUs, like our Department of Water and Power and Public Works. I mean, that would be an empowering thing that you could do in the next few months. So I would just challenge you to really work, and I hope that I don't hear the same kinds of complaints and concerns that have been plaguing our committee in terms of some of the turn that the department is taking, which is certainly not to my liking or to the hundreds of people in neighborhood councils.
Mr. Rosendahl is our next speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree with everything my colleague Janice Hahn said. There are some concerns about how the department is being run. I've gotten calls from neighborhood council people who question how it's being run right now in the interim. First question I have for you, do you intend to be an applicant for the position?
I am not.
You're not an
I
applicant?
am not
for
an
the
applicant
position.
for the position.
And so you, out of the absolute commitment to the city, are serving as an interim until the national search takes place.
My commitment is to the over 1,600 neighborhood council members and the stakeholders to ensure that this neighborhood council system works for them.
Well, I'm very, very, very happy and proud that you take that attitude about it. The big issues for us, of course, will happen with the 9/12 Commission, how they define stakeholders, how they look at neighborhood councils. As Ms. Hahn was saying, there's real concern about the bureaucratization, the Brown Act. I mean, they're getting frustrated about how this democracy aspect of it works, doesn't work, and so on and so forth. So I'm delighted that you're staying in the interim position, and thank you for coming forward. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Mr. Reyes is next.
Thank you, Council President. First, Mr. Hahn, I want to say thank you for your energy, your drive, and your stamina. But I did want to ask a question regarding some of the basic support systems that we would hope is developing for the Neighborhood Council. One, to me, is a key tool, which is planning. I do know we have a new planning director, relatively new, getting around to know what the city is like and doing dynamic work internally. But do we right now have the type of planning, analytical, technical support for the council, neighborhood council at that level? Is that happening yet?
I can speak from within department, council member. From the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, that expertise is not available to the neighborhood councils. One of the items that I raised during the Education Neighborhoods Committee this morning is simply that the skill set of our employees, it's incumbent on management within department to ensure that our skill sets are matching the growth and development, if you will, of our neighborhood council system. We have incredible staff members within the department. It is my job in the next several months to make sure that they have the skill set and that we're working with the other departments such as planning to ensure that we have that accessibility to our neighborhood councils.
It seems to me that as we go through the process of having that nitty-gritty discussion of what happens in my neighborhood, a lot of it is about land use. I do know that they have a budget and the ability to access resources, and perhaps that becomes an avenue by which we can fund more technical support. Because right now our planners are spread really, really thin. We're barely catching up on our case load. We had a great report from the director of all the progress they've made, but the fact is we still need to build up the infrastructure, the link between what happens at the street level within the context of a neighborhood council arena and what happens at the legislative process and the decision-making process within the permit issue. So if neighborhood councils could understand their legal parameters, understand the land use designation, the environmental impact report process, much of their time could be spent much more efficiently in how they come to decisions. So I'm hoping we mature and move in a direction where we have that type of support to minimize this circle that we catch ourselves because we're not getting the right guidance and support from a planning and development point of view.
And council member, in response to that too, just to let you know and all the council members know, training
Please hold my
is
time.
training is a key issue for us from within the department, not only internally but externally. The department is planning, if you will, at the end of October, an orientation citywide for all of our newly elected neighborhood council board members. Part of that orientation is also what is available to them, what is planning, what is Department of Transportation, and also conflict resolution, what is the Brown Act. So it's an all-encompassing orientation that we will be holding at the end of October, and will continue.
Yeah, thank you for your support, and let's hope the city family can come together in a much more efficient manner to guide our neighborhood councils to have informed decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Cardenas, and then Mr. Parks.
Thank you very much. Lisa, how many times a day do you get thank you emails, thank you letters, thank you cards?
Out there and stakeholders who have written me emails asking me for assistance, and please
stampeding forward to take that. We're trying to adhere to the you and your department are trying to interpret the asks and the wonderings of many people in the city. It's very difficult. Things that you are keeping back in my experience. I just want to thank you for that, because when you get political, you're not running for office. As a matter of fact, many of the people you interact with are running for office. They're running for their city council board, community council boards, etc., or may have other aspirations. I just wanted to thank you for your ability to continue to try your best to remain neutral and just try to be the arbiter, the interpreter of what we're trying to all do here. And I do believe that you're trying to make sure that the neighborhood councils do succeed. Although many people complain about you and your department that you're not doing that. I do not agree that that is the case. I do agree that you're trying your best to have them succeed. Although I don't think you went to college specifically to study this job, you're kind of etc. This is the kind of job that really would not be found in any curriculum whatsoever. So it's a very difficult job for anyone to do. I want to personally make sure on the record, whether people like it or not, I think you're doing a very good job. You're not doing a perfect job. I know you can appreciate that. The fact of the matter is, I think that you're doing the kind of job that can be done, which is as good as it gets. Thank you very much.
Thank you, council member, for your words. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Parks is our next speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Lisa, I just want to read you one line from my field deputy who's in charge of the 8th District. Says that extending your appointment would be the best move that could possibly be made today. And we want to thank you in the 8th District because you have brought some sense to some of the things we've struggled with, particularly with a couple of our neighborhood councils. Again, you know, we've talked before about some of the needs, and certainly many of the problems that are in the neighborhood council were there long before you took the reins. And you've done, I think, all that's humanly possible to bring some of those debates to a conclusion and give us some practical ways in which we should do things like elect people, how we should pay our bills, things in which setting priorities for neighborhood councils. And I think what we found over time, you just can't let them run at their own devices. On one regard, they have to have some systems. On the other hand, they have to have some flexibility to do what the charter intended. So from my perspective and the people that you work with and your staff works with in the 8th District, we want to say thank you for that breath of fresh air and the changes you've made. And we just hope that before April, you can help us get all 6 of our neighborhood councils functional, and want to just say personally thank you.
Thank you, council member.
And let me thank you as well, Lisa, for your good work out there in a very, very difficult situation. I think you've been doing a marvelous job balancing many of the things that were said. So take the chair's prerogative to add that as well. With that, if we can open the roll. Please open the roll, Madam Clerk. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved.
Thank you.
We'll send that forthwith. If there's no objection to the mayor. Yes, Ms. Perry. Hold on one second. Just make sure your microphone's on. Go ahead.
I wanted to make a motion to reconsider item 22.
Okay. There's no objection. Let's reconsider item 22. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
And you'd like to call that special? Put it in the queue?
Yes.
Okay. Call that special for Ms. Perry. Next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, is item number 20, and that was called special by Councilmember Hahn.
Okay, Ms. Hahn, we have item number 20. While you're coming up, I wanted to also welcome the City Attorney of the City of Oakland, Mr. John Russo, to our council chambers. Please give him a warm greeting from the City of Los Angeles. Always a pleasure to have you here, Mr. Russo. Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I just wanted to highlight this, particularly for those in the harbor area who may be watching Channel 35. This is an item where, as a result of the remodeling of Kaiser Permanente Hospital in Harbor City, they were required to do some mitigation. And one of the pieces of that mitigation is widening the western half of Vermont Avenue from Pacific Coast Highway to Normandy Avenue. So that will come as a great relief to those in the harbor area who already find that sometimes it's difficult to travel Vermont Avenue. And one of the good things about this widening project is that it will actually raise the level of Vermont Avenue to alleviate what happens every year during the rains, and that's flooding. We have a lot of flooding on that boulevard, particularly around Pacific Coast Highway. We have Ken Malloy Harbor Regional Park right there that becomes a kind of a bad situation. So I just wanted to alert people that it'll probably be a year-long project, but there are going to be curbs and gutters that haven't been there before. We're going to have new relocated street lights, and that traffic signal at the intersection of Vermont and Pacific Coast Highway will be relocated. There'll be new striping, so really we're going to make that thoroughfare up-to-date, modern, and easy for commuters to traverse it. So bear with the inconvenience for a year, but know that at the end of that, we'll have a much more improved Vermont Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else wishing to be heard on this? If not, Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Item 20. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item number 22, called special by Councilmember Perry.
All right, Ms. Perry, and we do have a card, though we've had the public hearing.
Yes,
So.
thank you. Perhaps it would be better if we had the community folks speak first, and then I'll close it.
We have one card. If there's no objection to reopening public hearing, we'll reopen it for this speaker, Joe Turner. If you'd like to come forward, Mr. Turner, you have 2 minutes to address the council. Welcome to council chambers.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Councilman, thank you very much for reopening this so we can get up here and say hello. As a neighborhood council vice president, I'm here to speak on behalf of the beautification organization that's at Van Meter Center, Estelle Van Meter. We have standing to my left is a young lady who was involved in the beginning of our beautification. And it's a great pleasure to stand here and request that the corner of 76 and Avalon be named Van Meter Square. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Thank you very much. Ms. Perry?
Thank you very much. And Mr. Turner, did you introduce each person you're there with? Please say their names for the record.
For the record, is Ms. Porter Good, the president of Can Do. Next to my right is Ms. Collins, the founder of the Beautification Organization. On my right is Mrs. Daniel, who is our Can Do, and she's also the Beautification Secretary.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Naming the intersection of 76 and Avalon, the Estelle Van Meter Square, is very important, not only to me, but important to the history of the community in the 9th Council District. Mrs. Van Meter was a very gracious woman with a commanding presence. She was an activist and she was a leader. And over the years, for those of you who kind of grew up in City Hall, and Janice, I know you probably remember, and Wendy and Tom, and of course Mr. Parks, I'm sure paid many, many, many visits there to pay honor to Mrs. Van Meter and to the people that she represented so fiercely. She founded the Van Meter Center in 1976 because she believed it was important to discuss ways of improving the community, and she understood the importance of total community dedication and involvement. I still believe today that the center exists because Mrs. Van Meter saw the need and she actually did something about it, because she felt knowledge is power, and by working together and bringing in community resources, the quality of life would be improved with dedication and hard work. Now the center is dedicated to total involvement for improving the quality of life for senior citizens from all ethnic backgrounds and families from all ethnic backgrounds in the community. All of those who reside in the very densely populated 77th Street area of the city, and they are provided with information, opportunity, and assistance. So I want to thank all of you today for coming here to speak on behalf of this naming and members of Can Do and the Van Meter Center, and for keeping her dream and our dream alive. And so I think it's quite fitting to name this intersection in her honor. And thank you for your guidance and your energy.
Thank you very much, Ms. Perry. Mr. Rosendahl is our next speaker.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to say before you walk away that you came before the committee, Public Works, which I'm chair of, and it was a wonderful moment to see a community believing in somebody so much for what she has done as her footprint, as she has left the world a better place. And we were honored to unanimously, the committee, Tom LaBonge and Greg Smith and I, to move it forward. So we're very proud of you all for remembering people who do make a difference, and we at the city do as well. And I thank Ms. Perry actually for organizing it all to begin with. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosendahl. Any other members wishing to be heard? If not, let's please open the roll, Madam Clerk, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Congratulations, and thank you very much for your presence here in council chambers. Next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 23 was called special by Councilmember Rosendahl, and I believe 24 and 25 are related. Do you wish to take all three together or
Yes, let's
separate?
take those together, but I think, have we had the item 55 substitute motion circulated?
Yes, that has been circulated.
Why don't we open the roll on that one first? We can open the roll on item 55, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That's approved. And Mr. Rosendahl, we're going to take up items 23 through 25. You want to take those together, or do you want to do those
Mr.
separately?
President, that's right. It's all
Okay.
part of the same
All right.
package. If we could ask LAWA folks to come up, Jim Ritchie, who's a great leader there, has been there for 8 years. Oh, Lydia Kennard. It's good to see you as well. And as you know, Mr. President, that airport settlement business that the mayor and my office worked on, Lydia Kennard's leadership was phenomenal in the room there, meant a lot to Westchester. So good morning. Tell us about this project.
This is a very significant project to the airport. It is the renovation of the Tom Bradley International Terminal. It was built in 1984 in anticipation of the '84 Olympics and is in desperate need of upgrade. All the systems will be rebuilt, things as minor as elevators and escalators and things as major as a whole new baggage system. As you well know, post 9/11, we now have to screen all of the bags, and this will be an automated system. This will be a very important project to the airport, but certainly to the city. Tibbet, as we know it affectionately, is the first view that many people have as they enter the United States, and so we really want to upgrade it and make it really a star in our portfolio. With me today is Frank Clark, who represents the Tibbet Carriers, and Van Thompson, who is our project manager, and as you mentioned, Jim Ritchie, who is our Deputy Executive Director for Facilities and Construction.
Would you explain a little bit about the security measures we're doing with the inline baggage and all of that?
Sure. The inline baggage system is the automation of the screening system. There'll be a new facility that will do that. in state-of-the-art type of technology. It's fundamentally a conveyor system that will make it more efficient and more effective.
And the other day before committee, we brought up the greening aspect, and I must say you were all very cooperative on that. Colleagues and public, this is the largest public works project of this century that our city is doing right now. It's anywhere between $600 and $700 and $800 million altogether when it's done. Explain sort of the greening aspects that we've been looking at in the last short period of time, as well as since this project started in the year 2000.
I'm going to turn this over to Jim Ritchie and Van Thompson to discuss the details of the greening.
Thank you.
Well, as you know, Councilman Rosendahl, we've had a green approach for a number of years. While we have typically looked forward to the master plan projects of new construction, the renovation of the Bradley Terminal has not gone unnoticed from a standpoint of greening everywhere that we could. You will see in that project, whether it's the heating and ventilation, the air conditioning, the vertical lift, the improved facilities within the building that will enhance water conservation, every aspect of that renovation to the degree that we can, short of new construction, will emphasize those issues. As leads and those categories become important to us with new construction and existing buildings, you will see at the airport a continuing emphasis, a continuing growth as we move into new construction.
You mentioned the word leads. Explain that a little bit.
LEEDs is a relatively new element of design where you take advantage of energy conservation, whether it's materials, the type of materials, recycled materials. One of the challenges that we had with the Bradley Terminal, we didn't have a current checklist to apply a renovation to. The Airports Council International is currently, as many projects are receiving more LEEDs interest, they are developing a checklist that we may be able to apply against new construction on an airport project and get that important certification for the city.
And the three types of leads are silver, gold, and platinum. It's going to be our goal to go as far as we can to getting it silver. Do you feel comfortable we'll be moving in that direction during the next 38 months?
Well, certainly that's our goal, and you will see that as our goal throughout the master plan program implementation in the next 10 to 15 years. We'll get there.
And I know that when we went to the airport, we brought a real expert on structures and design and architecture with Deborah Weinstein, who is my deputy of the environment. We brought another person along, and you all walked around, we all walked around the terminal. Are you pretty comfortable that in the next 38 months we will get as close to the environmental friendly notions that we in this great city now demand of everything we do?
Absolutely. Thanks to your energy and taking the time to tour the Bradley Terminal and see some of our challenges, every aspect of that building will meet or exceed green standards as we know them today.
Now, this is music to my ears, and I know to my colleagues as well. Do you see maybe hiring a consultant to happen or some structural way in which you'll be having a fresh pair of eyes that will constantly look at everything from the greening perspective?
We certainly remain open-minded to that. While we have members of our team that are LEED conversant, if you will, nonetheless, we're never too smart, and we always look forward to any outside comment in the form of a peer review on this project.
Well, first I want to thank LAWA for its due diligence on this. We're delighted that the reinvestment in our infrastructure will take place. The green lights are going forward, of which Bradley Terminal is one of them. And we're pleased that the cooperation we experienced last week. I'm going to make a friendly motion to this, colleagues, that Mr. Garcetti second, that pretty much talks about over the next 10 years as we do construction at the airport, we think green in everything we do. It also suggests that we recommend that you contract with green consultants so that we can actually keep that focus. And so with this friendly motion, if that works within the process, City Attorney, we'd like to have that.
Well, although this is approval or disapproval, that could be a request to the airport agency.
So as a request, will this friendly motion be able to move forward? Well, with that in mind, colleagues, this is a no-brainer for us. We need to make the entry point to Los Angeles a beautiful spot. When people remember Los Angeles, they get off the plane and they can go through customs and everything is friendly and beautiful, and they can look up and see the various greening aspects that we as a city are going to make this airport, and frankly, with the Tom Bradley as the first structure there, a beacon, an example, a model for the rest of the nation and the world to see. And I want to thank LAWA for all of its leadership in doing that. Thank you, Mr. President, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, Madam President. As my colleague said, you know, council members, this is the largest contract we've ever awarded. Could be up to, sounds like even more, but our initial estimates were $575 million. So it really is the largest single contract that we've awarded. So we shouldn't take this lightly. We should certainly pay attention to this, keep on top of this. One of the things that it's too late now, but I think we get into situations where contracts like this start with an estimate, and then, as we've seen with Parker Center, balloon. And one of the reasons is because we got only one response, one bid to our RFP. Can someone comment on why you think we only got one bid for this, the largest contract we've ever awarded in the city of Los Angeles?
That's a very good question, and I'm going to attempt to answer it, and then Jim Ritchie can jump in. This is a very, very difficult construction period nationally and even internationally. Everyone's busy. There's lots of construction going on. We have over $1 billion worth of construction going on at our airport today with the South Runway, the inline baggage systems, and now the Tom Bradley. Contractors are very busy. Materials are very expensive. And this is because the project is so large. There are very few contractors nationally who have even the bonding capacity and the resources to undertake a project of this magnitude. We were very delighted, however, that the single bidder was a very strong contractor with a strong reputation here of good performance. They worked with us. Their initial bid was very, very high. They worked with us very diligently and very positively to get that contract price down. So although it was a single bidder, we think we got a very good value with Clark McCarthy.
And what safeguards do we have to keep that cost sort of where it is?
We have the A team in project management led by Van Thompson. Frank Clark and his team are going to be very involved. Of course, Jim Ritchie is leading the entire team from the LAWA perspective. We also have Parsons, the Parsons Construction Management Group as our construction managers, and we will be very diligent every single day. You have my commitment to be involved. I'm going out to the trailer this afternoon to make sure that I'm personally involved in this project.
So certainly one of the concerns on a project like this is the bidder gets it down to where it's palatable, but then we see change orders, and again, we only have to look at Parker Center to see how that has ballooned way beyond, I think, what anybody had originally estimated.
I wish I could assert that there will be no change orders and no problems with this project.
Can you hold my time?
This is, please be reminded, this is one of the most complicated construction projects probably ever undertaken at an airport, and certainly at our airport. It is a huge amount of construction that has to be undertaken in a fully operational facility. We have to keep Tibbet open while we're doing this. That's why the costs are high. That's why the time is so long. We anticipate some hiccups. We're going to do everything possible to keep the costs down and the schedule intact, but we can't promise a picture-perfect project. We hope at the end of the day it'll be as near to perfect as possible.
I think that's one of the questions I think a lot of people are going to have. How do you undertake this massive facelift, remodeling, while continuing to keep it open? What can the average traveling passenger expect during this? What are you doing with signage, and how are passengers who arrive, many international passengers, when they arrive or depart, what's an average passenger going to expect to feel during this time?
That's also a good question. I'm going to turn it over to Frank Clark, who's been working with us, with the carriers to try to solve some of those problems.
It is an excellent question, and we absolutely agree with you and have spent considerable time. In fact, we had a planning meeting just this past Friday, have brought on a consultant to work with us on a PR campaign that will work with our travelers, both here in the United States and literally all over the world. Our intent is to be out there with the traveling public 60, 90 days in advance to tell them what is going on within the building, to let them know what construction is taking place, and also equally important is to let them know what the finished product is going to be like as well. So we take this very seriously. We're spending a considerable amount of time with it. We've spent literally the last 10 months dealing with the phasing plan that is going to be integral in this construction project and understand how that will impact our customers. And literally, I would just close by saying today we opened our interim lounges for our travelers. So that's the first step in going forward with this project, which will be the renovation of the lounges on the 4th and 5th floors. So we're already beginning the initial phase of the process.
So I take from that that it's going to be a little more than just a few signs saying, "Pardon the dust."
Yes, and in fact, we have actually a public relations firm that is working with our staff. We have a campaign called LX Expectations, Better Travel Ahead, and it's an airport-wide kind of public relations information campaign so that people will know that we're going to be a construction zone for many, many years to come.
And I know that you're going to be providing all the signage and information in various languages.
Yes, we will.
That's good to know. Let me just ask one more question. I know there's always concerns from the labor community when we undertake this kind of a massive construction project. Is there a project labor agreement with this project?
Yes, there is. It was signed early on. It's about a $3.4 million contractual commitment on our part, and we're being assisted by the Parsons Group again to manage a project labor agreement. Clark McCarthy has also committed to first source hiring, new apprentice hiring, and 20%, is it 20%? Local hire. Thank you very much. So, and these are commitments that they made outside of their contractual obligations, so we're really positive about their relationship with labor and our ability to deliver some really good jobs to the local community.
Well, colleagues, again, you know, Tibbet was built to prepare us for the 1984 Olympics, so certainly 22 years later, it certainly deserves really more than a facelift, a real remodeling. We know part of that is going to be the large gates to accommodate the Airbus 380, although it sounds like they're having their own problems. But still, we have committed, I know, to being ready when they're ready to receive the larger airlines when they come. It's a huge project, but it's going to be green. It has a project labor agreement, and it sounds like we've got the best team in place to oversee this, and you've certainly thought ahead of the traveling passengers, which is certainly a big concern for all of us in Los Angeles. So we'll be watching it. We know you're going to give regular reports back to the Commerce Committee in terms of the progress of this massive project, but good luck to everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Mr. LaBonge.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hahn. Very good questions that you asked there. And, Mr. Rosendahl, great leadership and enthusiasm for this project, and I know your deputy, Mike Bonin, worked closely on these issues, which is so important as you brought this to us, Bill, which is so important. I appreciate that, and the work of the mayor's office. Ms. Kennard, thank you for your leadership, and Mr. Ritchie, I appreciate that. And I was listening to the discussion, and one of the things you made me think about, Ms. Hahn, is, yeah, is there not going to be just signs that please excuse the dust? But I just thought, you know, I used this bottle once before at a time here. What's the chances of us working with Water and Power, because a gallon of water costs 3 cents, of giving free water to people who may want it in their traveling? Just say, you know what, they understand the confusion, they understand the construction, but would you think about that, Jim, and see, and I'll work with Water and Power, find out how much it costs. You know, the Department of Airports thanks you for the inconvenience. Here's a bottle of water if you want. See, just do a test to see. It just makes people remember that we care. I just think it's so important what you're doing, and what Mr. Rosendahl talked about, the green. I don't know if any of you have been in London lately. I went through London the other day, and I saw T5, which is their new terminal, which is maybe as big as all of downtown Los Angeles. Are you familiar with that building? Any green part of that building? Do you know of, want to explain it? You,
Not in great
are
detail.
you Fran or?
Frank Clark.
Frank, okay.
Certainly one of our constituents is British Airways, which will be one of the main tenants of Terminal 5 at Heathrow. That's been a terminal likewise that's been long in the planning phase, and all I can tell you is I know from being involved with British Airports Authority, which is the enterprise that runs Heathrow, that they are also very environmentally oriented, and beyond that I couldn't give you specifics.
Will there be a lot of light added to the building? I mean, will there be glass? Like this building here is shaded because the shades of the way the City Hall was constructed. But if you had more light, then you cut down on the electricity, and it makes it a brighter place. How much light is going to be shined?
I can't give you any specific details, but I'm sure that it brings into all the latest of architectural design in order to be energy efficient and take advantage of those.
I count on you, Mr. Ritchie, as the underling to the great executive director. You'll make that happen that way?
Yes, sir, you can.
Okay. And I appreciate it all. It's very important. I came back from a trip, and I stood on the airway for an hour and a half, or maybe an hour. I added 30 minutes, an hour. And it was disappointing because everyone was frustrated. You land safely, and then you got to wait. You got to improve the gates at Tom Bradley, and I hope to see future more gates so that people can, we are the gateway of the world, and it makes it easier for people to come in and out and keep the circulation of traffic out of neighborhoods and on the Interstate 105 and other roads. Do all that, keep them informed. But please, think about doing something nice, because wouldn't it be nice if we could figure out, and let me know what it costs, and I know I'll ask Mr. Rosendahl, maybe we could figure out what we could do. Is the City of Los Angeles, Department of Airports, sorry for the inconvenience. At the, because of a great speech by Janice Hahn, one councilman thought it'd be great to, instead of having a sign said, "Excuse the dust," here's a bottle of water. Good LA water, the best water in the world. Thank you, Madam President.
It has to be on the other side of the security checkpoint.
Right, and they have to drink it before they go onto the plane.
Oh, you guys. You know how to spoil the party there.
I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I want to thank you all for your hard work. But we all agree we want a city that people want to visit. We want a city where people can feel safe. And part of that is how we create jobs. So we have 3 different items, and I see 3 different amounts: $503 million, $34 million, and $723 million. Are these all separate amounts? Are these all together? Can you clarify what we're voting on? Hold my time, please.
No, that's an excellent question. The total program is $723 million. The biggest piece, represented by one of the contracts, the Clark-McCarthy piece, is $575 million. One of the challenges that we had with this project going forward, we had emerging needs. For example, Mr. Clark just mentioned the importance of rolling out interim lounges before we start construction. We had to pull that out as a separate piece. We talked about the A380 gates on the north and south, building larger gates, as Councilman Labange had addressed. So in that total amount, we have $723 million. We have owner control insurance program. Ms. Kennard mentioned the project labor agreement. So there are other components. The sum total adds up to 723.
So 723 is the grand total.
Yes, sir.
Of the 3 actions we're taking today.
The 3 actions are less than that.
Okay.
There's pieces that represent the total program that have already been acted on, either at City Council, Board of Airport Commissioner, or previously.
And perhaps you can get to my office a clear understanding of these cost issues, because I've been for the past 2 years trying to impress upon the city family how we hire locally. I'd like an understanding of where is this money going? Is it going to contractors and subs that are from the city, out of the city, out of the state, out of this country? I'd like to get a feeling for how we are recycling this type of funding, and will our young people have access to these jobs? I know we have a union issue, and I respect that. I know we have a contracting issue because you only have one bidder who responded. So are we in a position that we have to acquiesce to this one bidder and not requiring that they hire local young people? And can you give me a number of the percentage of jobs that will be given to our local youth in Los Angeles? Again, I started this dialogue with the assertion that we want to have a safe city. We want the criminal element to be tamed to the degree that we can, but it doesn't happen without jobs.
Right.
And so I really want an understanding of how jobs are being delivered to our young people, given the large amount that is on the table. Can you answer that, please?
Oh, yes and no. We certainly have the tools to deal with. We have the project labor agreement. We have local hire provisions. I mentioned the Clark McCarthy contract at $575 million. Parsons, Parsons contract, one of the board items is at $32 million, the Leo Daly at $14 million. I'm encouraged that the DBE activity also in those contracts is very...
DBE for lay people means?
Disadvantaged business enterprises,
Okay.
sorry. We've done a very good job. Clark McCarthy in particular has won national awards on their participation in DBE and jobs programs. So we're pretty encouraged about bringing a team that recognizes local jobs, recognizes big projects, and while I can't give you a percentage yet, we certainly got the excitement there.
And we were just informed by representatives from Clark McCarthy that they anticipate over 1,400 jobs being generated by this project, and there's a 20% local hire requirement, so that's pretty significant.
Now, did we take the time, and I know I'm going over here, but I think it's critical that we understand how we recycle our own city tax dollars and our public dollars, but do we have an idea of where the beneficiaries of these jobs live? Are they coming from South LA, Southeast LA, Central, East, Northeast, Pacoima, high concentration of unemployed young people? We happen to have high concentrations of crime and violence and gangs. There's a direct equation to that environment. And here you have an incredible opportunity to cause relief on a very simple gesture of offering a job.
There are several programs currently in place that will be expanded for this project alone, and we work closely with CDD and others. We have a defined impact area where we go out and we actually try to recruit potential workers from that impact area. And it is our goal to try to make sure that as many of the jobs that are available go to people that are in those impact areas. We also are working with the labor unions to have new apprentice secured for opportunities on this job. And that's very important because those are entry-level positions, people that never have had an opportunity to work before, get the opportunity through the unions to be trained and work in viable jobs on this project. So it's quite an extensive program, it's quite a vibrant program, and we're hopeful that a lot of new opportunities for local residents will come out of this project.
I've run out of time, but I will have more questions. My request is to get a status on where those jobs are going. If we can get a report back either through one of our committees, I'll put it in a motion form. Mr. City Attorney, could I request a report in these items to understand where these jobs are going and how much are they being compensated for their job?
It can be framed as a report back
Okay.
for the airport to report back to you.
Okay, so when would it be comfortable for you to give us an indicator as to how much of this money is going back into our neighborhoods through jobs, and how much of the contract is going to the different entities that are going to be essentially benefiting from this major public works program?
We'd be happy to submit that within the next week or two. We have that information. We'd be happy to brief you individually and whatever committees. And I think Mr. Rosendahl has already received one as well. So we'd be happy to do that in the next couple of weeks.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Thank you, colleagues, especially our council member from the 11th District, Bill Rosendahl, who I think has done a great job of balancing moving forward and making sure the community is incorporated and really resolving, with Ms. Kennard's help, the past sticking points that prevented us from moving forward with way overdue modernization of many parts of the airport, but especially here. Could we walk through from the consumer kind of standpoint what some of these changes will feel like? I mean, this is an opportunity. I think, I bet you suspect it will pass today. I bet you feel, you're going through some of the questions that we have here, but it's a real opportunity for our audience and our viewing audience to understand what this is actually going to look like going forward. I think you covered the A380, the new giant double-decker Airbus, and the accommodations made, because we have a combination of a semi-monopoly, but we're semi-competitive. If people have to come to LA, we've got a monopoly, but if they don't have to come to LA, it's a competition for making sure those planes come in. But similarly, we've been known, for instance, let's start with the high end. I don't frequent these lounges myself, but I know that we've gotten bad reviews for our international lounges, that for the high-end business traveler, which is one of the most profitable parts of the industry, that Los Angeles is known as the worst. Walk us through what that will look like for that business traveler or that luxury traveler first.
Let me
Hold my time, please.
turn this over to Mr. Clark, who is really the most adept at describing how the customer will feel.
Great, thank you.
Well, again, we agree this is a watershed day and long overdue for our international travelers coming to and from Los Angeles. Specifically to your question, the lounges, today there are 16 very small lounges built in the early 80s. Those will be consolidated into 4 large mega lounges upstairs. We actually gained 72% more floor space in those lounges by consolidating into the 4 larger lounges. Construction on those lounges will literally start next week with the demolition of the 4th and 5th floors, and then over the next 8 months we'll move into the tenant improvements that each of the airline groups will complete, with opening of those lounges late next spring of next year. But from a macro perspective for the whole terminal building, one of our biggest impacts has been post 9/11. We lost 40% of the floor space of the terminal building to TSA resources, both equipment and manpower. The new facilities that will be built to house those resources literally frees up the congestion that we've experienced post 9/11 and will give back to us a great amount of floor space for flexibility and movement of passengers and traffic. As was mentioned earlier, the infrastructure in the building, the elevators, the escalators, the moving sidewalks, are all resources that have long outlived their expectancy and have significant downtime. LAWA staff have done a great job of simply keeping those operating today. Many, if not most of those, will be replaced so that the elevators actually work when people are transversing between floors, escalators and moving sidewalks and so forth. The other is dynamic state-of-the-art signage. As you walk in the building today, you really have difficulty finding out when your airline is going to operate, what ticket counters it will operate from, and so we'll really have state-of-the-art signage that is much more passenger-friendly, again making it easier for the traveler to get from their entry area to their ticket counter and out to the gates. In addition to that, there'll be improved lighting, and then in the arrivals area, there will be a video area that will be very dynamic, very state-of-the-art, that will at least provide some visual graphics for people as they're waiting for their guests to arrive. And then last but not least is in the customs inspection area. Again, the facility that we have down there was built in the early 1980s and simply does not accommodate the size of aircraft that we have today. Those units will be replaced, and we'll have units of sufficient size so that all the bags from a single flight can be displayed on a single carousel, and passengers can find and get their baggage and exit the facility much easier and quicker. So in a very general fashion, those are just an overview of some of the passenger benefits that they will see.
I know some of this is the decision of the airlines and their lounges. Will there be things like bed or shower facilities? Will we be looking at some of expanded shopping opportunities? Obviously, we have a captive audience there. I know we're looking at the that throughout the airport, but could you describe what some of those plans are? Sure.
Indeed, the lounges specifically will have shower facilities. They'll have business center facilities where passengers will be able to go in, easy internet access, copy machines, again, a full type of business center
Wi-Fi
ambience.
throughout the terminal?
I'm sorry?
Will the terminal have Wi-Fi access?
Yes, we will have Wi-Fi capability throughout the terminal building and in the lounges as well.
For free, or is that a subscription service? Are you still weighing this
In the
up?
lounges, it will be for free, and in the terminal area, it will be for subscription, but having been part of that selection process, the rates are very competitive to all other international gateway airports.
Okay. Except the free ones, which
Except the free
occasionally
ones.
transit through. And in terms of the baggage improvements that we're voting on today as well, what sort of time goals do you have for that? What's the average time right now for an international flight coming to that terminal in terms of baggage, and what do you expect it to get to with automated? Is there going to be reduction that you have quantified at all?
Well, again, significantly, it will help reduce lobby congestion and the standing in lines that people have today as they have to check in and then physically transport their bags to a TSA inspection area. The bags are inspected, and then the bags are deposited and go down into
So it's on the front end mostly, not the back end when you come in?
And on the back end, again, what will be probably the greatest significance and benefit is that today, as you arrive, literally again because the size of aircraft and number of passengers, is that the bags from a single flight will go onto 2 carousels. So passengers find themselves going back and forth trying to find out which carousel their bag's on. Today in the future, that then will allow all the bags to be deposited on a single carousel, and so they'll be able to more quickly find their bags, claim their bags, and then exit the area.
Okay, thank you. I'll just conclude by underlining a couple things that Mr. Rosendahl talked about. I know in 2004, when he came before here, we did adopt something Mr. Padilla seconded and Ms. Misikowski on a LEED Silver standard. I think the conversation back from the airport at that time was LEED doesn't exist for airport. We don't know exactly what it means. But really pushing for that standard, we have that as a policy in the city. That we're the first large city in America to make all of our municipal buildings have to be at least a LEED standard. We didn't apply that to the proprietaries, though that may be a good way to move forward just to ensure that that's policy. But it makes sense from a number of areas. I mean, you know, it reduces energy and waste in construction. 40% of our waste stream comes from new construction. And as we're looking at landfills and them reaching their capacity as well, it's very important. Secondly, though, I think it says something about Los Angeles. The mayor and this council have very much been branding Los Angeles to attract green businesses. If they're that point of entry when people come in here and see that, you know, the richest man in China is a solar cell manufacturer. You know, there is a world competition right now where green energy and green industries are going to be based. Something that not only builds green, but highlights that it is green. If you can work that into the experience too, is a very effective and important marketing tool for all of us in moving forward with the city. And lastly, of course, you know, in the long haul, it will save you money, which I know sometimes we have to look at the 5-year time span, but from your past experience at the airport, we know that we have a much longer one at the airport before the next shot to build something. So let's do that right, and we can save some money in the process. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Reyes, and then to Mr. Rosendahl to close.
Yes, just in closing, there's a strong effort by 2 committees, HCD and the Committee on Youth and Gangs. I'd like to humbly request if that report can go to HCD as well as Public Works. Again, we're trying to figure out how we shepherd through this process where we are actually holding the department heads, the commissioners, for lack of a better word, accountable in how we move this effort to actually create jobs internally, to recycle our public work dollars into our local businesses, to stimulate our economies that right now are at a pivotal place. Many of these areas don't have access to these kinds of resources. And yet, I sometimes go through lists and I'm amazed of how much actually goes out of the city, how much goes out of the state, how much goes into other places. And I understand that perhaps that's the best fit, but when we look into ourselves as to what we're doing as a city, how we recycle our dollars, I think, is a critical step. So I'd like to request that we can send that to HCD as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Madam President. In closing, first I want to thank all my colleagues for your thoughtful questions, your comments, and your insights. That really has helped flesh out the whole set of circumstances here. Folks, this is a major project. This is the first of this century of such large scope, and it is our international terminal where the world comes in and sees us. Some people were suggesting as you come down the escalator, you see a picture of the mayor, maybe we should put all 15 council members and show the diversity of the city and show the geography of the city and possibly a sense of the whole politics. Just a thought that somebody threw out to me, one of my colleagues, that might make sense, might not, but other cities do that around the country. In concluding, folks, we're going to have a greener building, and we're going to stay on top of that, and we're going to get reports back periodically about how we're doing on the greening as well as other projects. As Jim Ritchie and I were mumbling as we toured it, we want to get it done in 38 months. Many of us hope to be around 38 months, and then 10 years, 20 years. We want to get these things done now, and we're very delighted with the leadership in doing that. When my colleague Ed Reyes mentioned about jobs and neighborhoods, we have to stay within the community benefit program as much as possible to bring in people who live in the neighborhood to have jobs there. This is a big public works project that will be a terrific asset to all of our kids at youth and all of the other issues of meaningful jobs. And of course, with security, the emphasis we now have since 9/11, I feel comfortable that you've moved in the right direction. So I ask for unanimous support, colleagues, on these motions. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl, for your leadership on this. Seeing no other speakers on the queue, Madam Clerk, open the roll on these items, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
This item has been approved.
With this?
Forthwith. Thank you. And since our president is acting mayor, it's really forthwith today. So thank you. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Next item, Madam President, is item number 48, and that was called special for cards from the public.
Yes, we have one card, Mr. Zumadog. Seeing Mr. Zumadog is not here, we will close public comment. Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
That item's been approved. Next item?
Next item, Madam President, is item number 50, and that was also called special for cards from the public.
Yes, Ms. Perry, before we go, forthwith on 48,
Yeah.
thank you. We only have one public comment card. It's again Mr. Zumadog. Do not see him present here. Going once, twice, not. This item, public comment, is now closed. Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
That one will go forthwith as well. Next item.
And also, item 53 was called special for cards from the public.
Yes, also, I do not see Mr. Zumadog on this item, so we will close public comment. Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
That item's been approved. Next item.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Those will be posted and referred.
And that clears the desk, Madam President.
Thank you. Do we have any announcements today, colleagues? Any announcements? Mr. Parks, I see you standing. Does that mean you have an announcement?
Announcement.
Yes.
I just want to announce that the 9/12 Commission's first public hearing will be at the Epic Center on Tuesday, October 17th, 6:30 to 9:30. Epic Center is 3980 South Menlo in Los Angeles. I'd like everyone to come out and participate in this very important commission dealing with the future of neighborhood councils.
Yes, Mr. Cardenas.
In the spirit of Mr. Parks being here, I'm sorry Greg Smith isn't at his desk, but I want to know if we can do do a resolution to get an investigation into the rating system of our colleges. We have a private college right here in Los Angeles that's getting ranked number 1, number 2. We have a public university that's beating their opponents by a larger margin than the USC team, albeit honest, I'm talking about USC and UCLA. And I was wondering maybe if Mr. Parks can help me in sponsoring that. I just don't understand it.
The whole system has to do with the quality of the opponents that they're playing.
We'll see.
Well, I'll withdraw my motion. I guess I'll talk to Mr. Parks and maybe he can educate me. Maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree or something.
MIT started it.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Any adjourning motions today, colleagues? We have one adjourning motion, so if we could ask everyone to please rise.
We're done with on that, but I did want to adjourn in memory of Al Anzac, who was the editor of the Cali Tidings, a newspaper here, lived to be 80-plus years old, had a beautiful family, was very dedicated to the Tidings, which is the, as I mentioned, the Archdiocese newspaper. Also, members would like to ask we adjourn in memory of Gordon Murdoch, a former county director of planning, resident of the 4th District, who passed, preceded in his death by his wife, Shirley. Adjourn in memory of Al Anzac and Gordon Murdoch.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Any other adjourning motions? If not, excuse me, Mr. Parks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I ask we adjourn in memory of Lucy Sterling Boone, a community leader and also a person very active in the real estate market who passed away Saturday, September the 30th at her home in mid-Wilshire area. She served as a national, state, local level government appointed by President Reagan. She was served as a representative of the Department of Housing and Urban Development's National Manufactured Home Advisory Council, also on the Board of Directors of the State of California, Watts Tower Community and Conservation Trust in Los Angeles, on the Board of Cultural Heritage Commission. She's also a member of the Los Angeles World Affairs Council and was chosen as Woman of the Year by the Los Angeles Sentinel newspaper in 2004. She is survived by her one sister and 4 brothers, and services will be held at Harrison Ross and View Park on South Crenshaw. Memorial service at 10 a.m. Saturday, October 14th. Also ask that we adjourn in memory of Mr. C. Moon Liu, beloved father of CDD's finance officer, Joanne Liu, who passed away at age 84 at September 24th, 2006. He earned his bachelor's degree from urban planning and a law and business administration university. For more than 45 years, he worked as a trading, manufacturing manager, quality control officer for both private and public companies in Taiwan. Mr. Liu immigrated his family to Los Angeles in 1989 and resided in the city of Cerritos. I had a variety of interests. He was diagnosed, unfortunately, with brain tumor April 2006. He's survived by his wife and 3 daughters.
Thank you. Mr. Parks? Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.